what stands between us and where we want to go is never what we think it is. It's not the economy, it's not the president, it's not that somebody already dominated the health food industry or dominated Facebook advertising or dominated TV advertising or there's no room left. It's never that. It's always the story we tell ourselves on why we can't achieve that. And if I wanted to boil it down, I would just say, what is your biggest why? What's your biggest goal that you would love? If it was a year from now and we were sitting here, you're watching this and it was a year later and it was the best year of your life, what would be the biggest thing that would have changed in your life? From money, income, family, love, intimacy, being a better dad, mom, whatever that is. If you say to yourself, I would love that goal, like I'd love to have my company doing $1 million a year in net profit so I could have freedom for my family, then just say but. And whatever that but is usually your story. It's like, I would love my company to be doing $1 million yet, but I live in a smaller town and there's just not enough people to do it. Or the internet's so saturated, there's no room to advertise on Facebook anymore because everybody and their brother's on. Whatever that story is usually your story and that's the results you get. And that story is the thing standing between you and your next level. And I know people are watching right now going, oh, Dean, that's nice. You guys got money now, so it's easy. I don't have any money. I don't have a partner. I don't have any business experience. This economy's not right for what we do. And where there's that old saying, where there's a will, there's a way. If your story is that's what you'll continue to get. So what I would say is, if I was going to boil it down, is find what that story is. Now to you might be saying, Dean, you're saying it's a belief, it's reality. And maybe it's phase 3, but reality is nothing more than our perception of a situation, right? We all know that. You've read that about it, you've watched it on Tom's show, everybody has said it, but maybe this is the first time you actually think about it, that reality you think is holding you back is really just the story. So there's 2 things I say, is go find somebody else with that same story. Like go look at your evolution, where you were on your couch, no money, right? Go look at Richard Branson's story, look at Tony Robbins' story, look at John Paul DiGiorio or all the amazing books. I've read every book in there. That's amazing, the people that you've got to interview and meet. But read all those stories and realize that first of all, that story you have is probably a lie. Right? So if you can find proof, like leverage that it's a lie, that's one thing. But then the one that would get me is I love aspiration. I love to look and say, look what you did, man. I want to get there. If he did it, I can do it. But sometimes you need the pain as well. So what I like to do is I like to think, take that story and think it's 5 years from now and think it's 10 years from now. And you're still in the same exact spot you are now. You're still worried, you still have envy, you still want more, you desire more, you want to take care of your family, you want to provide more. And think that story, those 2 sentences, is the thing holding you back. Do you really want to give that story that much power? And then think it's 10 years from now, and that story is still done. And all of a sudden, for me, I think, am I going to let that story stop me? I brought my son with me today. Am I going to stop from giving him the opportunities that I didn't? I have 2 children. I'm not raising entitled kids. I want to give him massive opportunity. I don't want to leave him a trust fund. I'm going to leave him massive opportunity and train him. I'm not going to let any story get in the way of me being that dad. And if a story pops up that says, hey, I can't make baseball this week because of this, I'll change the damn story. I'll fist fight with that story. And I'll look at the pain I'll have if I keep that story. So I love the aspirational part of this story will stop me from my new life, but I also like, are you gonna let that story screw you around for the next 5, 10, 15 years? I mean, man, we're gonna be 90 laying in a bed looking up like before we know it. And do you wanna think I squeezed all I could out of life, or did I let just beliefs that other people gave me hold me back?
Now let's say that they do that, they're looking back, they understand what they would have to change to really get, so they're at a future point thinking, okay, this is the best year of my life. They look back, they understand what they have to do to actually make that come true. They identify a limiting belief. They get the but, and then cool, I got it. I'm owning that story unintentionally. Now how do they start writing a new story without feeling like they're lying to themselves?
No, that's true. So in 10th grade, I decided I wasn't going to college. Wasn't that smart, had dyslexia, family didn't have money, none of my family ever went to college. I just wanted out of school. So my dad owned a collision shop. It was called Paul Graziosi Auto Body. And he never made more than 30 grand a year. I told you, he worked really hard, but not profitable, just worked hard. So my dad said, if you're not gonna go to college, I'll make you a 25% partner in the collision shop in 11th grade if you can get out by 11 o'clock. So 11 o'clock, I 11th and 12th grade, I took like ceramic, gym, and, and English, and I was out. I was at the collision shop. So in 11th grade, in this little town I grew up of 8,000 people, a little town called Marlboro, New York, the collision shop sign, he switched it, and it became Paul and Dean Auto Body. And I'm like, that was huge for me. And I worked like my dad did. I hustled. I went there at 11 o'clock. I worked every night. And my dad was like, hey, our business is doing better because of you. I was better with the clients. I was better. I brought more people in. I hustled. So now all my friends are going off to college or going into what they're doing. Like, you're not going to college? Like, no, I got this collision shop. Like, I felt like a little sense of pride, like I was making movement. And by then I was giving my mom some money. I was giving my grandmother some money, and had this evolution. I felt good. So about 2 years out of high school, my dad goes through his 4th divorce, and it hits him really hard. And it hit him so hard that he checked out. And he said, hey, I'm not going back to the collision shop. I'm not paying the rent, it's done. And I was like, at that phase of my life, Tom, I was embarrassed more than anything. Like, I remember that point because I was like, I'm not going to college, but I own Paul and Dean Auto Body with my dad. And it was like in my head, not realizing I'm 20 nothing, I'm like, life's over. I have no money in the bank. Life is just screwed. And I started telling myself that story. And I lost the spark I had had since I was about 12. Like since 12, I'm like, I'm not that smart, but I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it. And I lost it. And I'm going to friends like, hey, if your dad or anybody you know needs a car fix, I'm doing it out of my garage. And I know my friends are like, And then all of a sudden, so this is what I'll share with you. Maybe you've had a story worse than that, or maybe a story not as bad as that. But I remember being in there and saying to myself, like, what the hell am I doing telling myself this crap? Like, if I feel this way, I'm gonna be my dad. And I remember at that moment, I changed the story and I started thinking to myself, and it didn't happen overnight. So this is where I wanna encourage you. When you find the bad story, find a way to just reverse the whole thing. I'm like, no. Because I don't have a college degree, I'm gonna fight and I'm gonna do this. Because I was always small, I'm gonna do this. Because I have no money, I'm gonna do this. Because my friends think I can't, I'm gonna do this. And all of a sudden, I started changing this story, not overnight, but over weeks. It became my empowering story. I wasn't looking at a deficit. I'm like, screw you guys. You think I'm not gonna do this because I don't have what you have? I'm gonna blow right past you, whether that's a good thought or not. At the time, it served me. That's not how I look at things now, but at the time it served me. Some of it was, and I was able to reverse that story, and that story got me through. Just like what got you from going to the couch, getting change, to where what you've created. It's unbelievable, the impact you've made on the world. But if we had the wrong story, if we had the wrong beliefs, we're screwed before we start. I'm glad that we went down this road, because if one person watching today just says, screw this old story, and you spent the time to make that an empowering story, then I think the game changes forever.
Do you have people that ask you like, hey, I'm rewriting my story, but it doesn't feel real? What advice do you have for them?
Rewriting my story and it doesn't feel real. Of course it doesn't feel real, because you've been living the old story so long. All change all change freaks people out, whether they believe that they like change or not. And I think not only been telling yourself the story so long, is when you tell yourself a bad story, we look for things. Do you ever have something bug you, like everybody does, and you Google it and you find all the negative stuff, like, oh my God, I got cancer. I have a tumor, right? It's the same thing with our insides, right? When we have a story that's holding us back, we find social proof all around us that tells us it's the truth, right? You talk to your aunt who says, hey, listen, rich people get to do those things, we don't. You just play it safe. And all of a sudden, subconsciously, you're like, oh, maybe that story's right. So you have all these years of, sometimes years, months, weeks, whatever it is, you have the story, and then you only collect the data that supports the story, so your subconscious can be okay with playing small.